The signal. Dr. Sarah Chen stood motionless in the depths of the Atacama Large Millimeter Array control room, her eyes fixed on the incoming data stream. The signal was unlike anything she'd ever seen. A perfect, rhythmic pattern that couldn't possibly be natural. After 20 years of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, they'd finally found something. But her excitement quickly turned to dread as she decoded the message's contents. The signal wasn't meant for Earth at all. It was a military communication between two alien fleets discussing the systematic conquest of what they called primitive worlds. Earth was next on their list. Director Matthews needs to see this immediately, she whispered to her colleague, Dr. James Rodriguez. But James was already making a call, not to the observatory's director, but to a classified number few knew existed. Within hours, Sarah found herself in a facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, facing a panel of individuals whose existence had never been made public. General Diana Walsh, commander of Earth's Secret Defense Initiative, leaned forward in her chair. Dr. Chen, what you've discovered isn't our first contact with the Nexus Empire. We've been monitoring them for the past 30 years. Your detection of their communications means we're entering the final phase of Operation Looking Glass. Sarah's mind reeled as holographic displays materialized around the room, revealing Earth's true technological capabilities. The public-facing space programs, the seemingly primitive satellites, the conventional military forces, all were an elaborate deception, masking humanity's real progress. Since the first hints of their existence in 2089, we've been preparing, General Walsh continued. Every major technological breakthrough in the last 3 decades has been carefully hidden. What the world sees as normal infrastructure is actually part of an integrated planetary defense system. The general gestured, and a 3-dimensional map of Earth appeared, showing a vast network of quantum-linked facilities disguised as ordinary structures. Solar farms that were actually energy weapon arrays. Weather monitoring stations housing advanced shield generators. Communication satellites containing temporal disruption devices. The Nexus Empire has conquered hundreds of civilizations by overwhelming them with their superior technology, Walsh explained. They expect to find a divided planet still arguing about climate change and fossil fuels. Instead, they'll face a unified human race that has turned technological secrecy into an art form. Sarah watched as simulations played out showing the Empire's standard conquest protocols. But why maintain the deception? Why not show our true strength? A smile crossed the general's face. Because, Doctor, the greatest advantage in any conflict is being underestimated. The Empire's overconfidence will be their downfall. As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. A young lieutenant burst into the room. General, we've detected their advanced scout ships entering the Kuiper Belt. They'll reach Earth in less than 6 months. Walsh nodded calmly. Right on schedule. Dr. Chen, you've just become part of humanity's greatest performance. The question is, are you ready to help us maintain this deception until the perfect moment to strike? Sarah looked at the holographic displays showing Earth's hidden capabilities, then back at the incoming fleet data she discovered. A smile slowly spread across her face. Where do we begin? The next few months would test humanity's ability to maintain the greatest deception in its history. As the Nexus Empire approached, Earth would present the face of a primitive, divided world, while beneath the surface, the most sophisticated defense network ever created waited for the perfect moment to spring its trap. In orbit, publicly known satellites continued their normal operations, while their quantum cores quietly coordinated with thousands of hidden nodes across the planet. In every major city, what appeared to be routine infrastructure maintenance was actually the final deployment of defensive systems disguised as power stations, cell towers, and traffic control systems. The stage was set. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, and soon the Nexus Empire would learn why you should never judge a civilization by its apparent limitations. Hidden strength. Supreme Commander Zexalar of the Nexus Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching as holographic displays showed their first detailed scans of Earth. His mandibles clicked in amusement at what he saw. Primitive fossil fuel power plants, basic satellite networks, and military vehicles that still relied on chemical propulsion. Another primitive world, he chittered to his executive officer. They haven't even achieved basic quantum manipulation yet. This conquest will be routine. If only he knew that every scan his ships performed was being carefully manipulated. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility disguised as a marine research station, Dr. Sarah Chen and her team monitored the incoming alien fleet through quantum sensors that the Empire couldn't detect. They're following the exact invasion pattern we predicted, Sarah reported to General Walsh. Their scans are only seeing what we want them to see. The general nodded, watching as real-time data flowed through their quantum network. Every piece of Earth's advanced technology was hidden behind carefully crafted technological camouflage. What appeared to be simple weather satellites were actually nodes in a vast defensive grid. Ordinary power plants housed antimatter reactors. Even the International Space Station, seemingly primitive by the Empire's standards, contained technology that could manipulate the fabric of space-time itself. Begin Phase 2, Walsh ordered. Let's give them exactly what they expect to see. Across the globe, a carefully choreographed performance began. Military bases scrambled outdated jets in apparent panic. Nations publicly bickered about how to respond to the alien threat. Social media erupted with conspiracy theories and doomsday predictions, all part of humanity's elaborate deception. Commander Zexlar watched with growing satisfaction as Earth's responses matched perfectly with the psychological profiles his empire had compiled from hundreds of previous conquests. Send the standard ultimatum, he ordered. Give them 48 hours to surrender or face annihilation. The ultimatum was broadcast globally, overriding all electronic communications. As expected, Earth's public response was chaotic. But in the hidden command center, General Walsh smiled. They're proceeding exactly according to the profile. Time to activate the next phase. Sarah worked with teams worldwide, coordinating the theatrical display of weakness. Every apparent defensive measure was calculated to reinforce the Empire's misconceptions. Nuclear missiles were armed, outdated technology that posed no real threat to the alien fleet. Naval vessels moved into defensive positions, looking helpless against the massive ships above. But beneath this facade of primitive technology, Earth's true defenses were silently moving into position. Quantum-linked nodes disguised as debris and satellites formed an invisible web around the planet. Temporal distortion fields masked as atmospheric anomalies spread throughout the stratosphere. What appeared to be panic and disorganization was actually a precisely coordinated dance, positioning every piece for the moment of revelation. In orbit, Commander Zexlar's fleet arranged itself in the standard conquest formation, their weapons powered up for what they assumed would be a brief display of force, followed by Earth's inevitable surrender. The massive ships cast shadows over major cities, their very presence designed to break the spirit of yet another primitive world. Such a waste of resources, Zexlar mused. A single ship could handle this conquest, but protocol demands we make an example of them. In the underwater command center, Sarah monitored the fleet's positioning through quantum sensors that appeared as simple sonar arrays to alien scans. Every move the Empire made had been predicted, simulated, and prepared for over decades of careful study. "Sir," she called to General Walsh, "they're nearly in position. All pieces of the quantum web are ready. Should we proceed with the final phase?" Walsh studied the holographic display showing the true state of Earth's defenses, all hidden behind their primitive facade. "Not yet. Let them think they have us completely at their mercy. The greater their confidence, the more complete their surprise will be." Above, the alien fleet continued its intimidation display, unaware that they were actually maneuvering into a trap 30 years in the making. Earth's apparent helplessness was their greatest weapon, and soon the Nexus Empire would learn the cost of underestimating humanity. The deception. As the 48-hour deadline approached, Earth's carefully orchestrated performance reached its crescendo. In New York, holographic projectors disguised as traffic cameras showed crowds gathering in Times Square, their faces upturned in fear at the massive alien ships hovering above. In reality, many were trained actors, their panic carefully choreographed to reinforce the Empire's expectations. Dr. Sarah Chen monitored the alien communications from her station in the underwater command center. Their overconfidence was evident in every transmission. "They're not even maintaining basic security protocols," she reported to General Walsh. "They're so certain of their superiority that they're broadcasting their tactical plans in the clear." "Perfect," Walsh replied, watching as the quantum web continued to expand undetected. "Have our civilian satellites detected their command frequencies yet?" Sarah nodded, suppressing a smile. "They're using exactly the wavelengths we predicted. Our primitive communications satellites are picking up everything, just as planned." Commander Zexelar's voice boomed across Earth's airwaves once again, his tone dripping with condescension. "Your time grows short, humans. Already, half your allotted time has passed. Submit now, and we may show mercy." In response, Earth's governments maintained their charade of disunity. The United Nations convened an emergency session that devolved into apparent chaos. Military forces from various nations made what looked like uncoordinated and futile preparations for resistance. But beneath the surface, humanity's true response was unfolding with clockwork precision. In facilities disguised as subway stations and shopping centers, quantum computers processed vast amounts of data about the alien fleet. Every scan they made, every communication they sent, revealed more about their weaknesses. "They still haven't detected any of our actual defense systems," Sarah reported, examining the latest data. "Their scans are completely fooled by our technological camouflage." In orbit, the alien fleet continued to position itself according to its standard conquest protocols. What appeared to be random debris and defunct satellites were actually nodes in Earth's quantum defense network, each one carefully placed to take advantage of the Empire's predictable tactics. Commander Zexelar reviewed the latest intelligence reports with growing satisfaction. Earth's resistance was proceeding exactly as expected, ineffective and disorganized. His species had conquered countless worlds this way, and this one would be no different. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting increased activity in their primitive missile silos. They appear to be preparing a nuclear response." Zexelar's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Let them. Their weapons are centuries behind ours. Such a display will only serve to demonstrate their helplessness." In the underwater command center, General Walsh received word that the final pieces of Earth's true defense system were in place. The quantum web was complete, its energy signatures masked by what appeared to be normal background radiation. Temporal distortion fields were ready, disguised as atmospheric anomalies. "Dr. Chen," Walsh called. "Status report on Project Mirror." Sarah checked her quantum-linked displays, carefully hidden behind screens that appeared to show simple radar data. "The quantum entanglement matrix is stable. When activated, it will reflect their own energy signatures back at them, amplified 1,000-fold. As the deadline drew closer, Earth's performance reached new heights of apparent desperation. Religious leaders called for prayer and meditation. Governments issued evacuation orders for major cities. Social media was flooded with farewell messages and last goodbyes. But in secure facilities around the world, humanity's greatest minds watched and waited. Years of preparation had led to this moment. The aliens' own psychological warfare tactics were being turned against them, their certainty of victory becoming their greatest weakness. 12 hours remaining, Sarah announced, her voice steadied, despite the historic weight of the moment. "All systems are green. The quantum web is fully operational and undetected." Walsh nodded, studying the holographic display that showed Earth's true defensive capabilities. "Send word to all commands. Maintain the deception until the final moment. Let them think their victory is absolute." Above, the alien fleet began its final positioning, their ships forming a web of destruction around the planet. They were about to learn that appearances could be deceiving, and that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their technology, but in their ability to use their enemies' assumptions against them. The revelation. The final hour of the Empire's deadline approached. Commander Zexlar stood on his bridge, mandibles twitching with anticipation, as he prepared to deliver Earth's final warning. His fleet's weapons were charged, their targeting systems locked on major population centers worldwide. Victory was assured. "Open all frequencies," he commanded. "Let them hear their fate." But before he could speak, something changed. Throughout his massive fleet, sensor arrays began detecting anomalies. Space itself seemed to ripple and shift around them. What had appeared to be simple communications satellites suddenly emitted energy signatures unlike anything in the Empire's database. "Impossible," Zexlar whispered as new data flooded his screens. The primitive world below was transforming. What had appeared to be ordinary city lights were revealing themselves as nodes in a vast energy network. Weather satellites shed their simple disguises, unveiling quantum weaponry that made his fleet's armaments look primitive by comparison. In the underwater command center, Dr. Sarah Chen's fingers flew across her quantum-linked interface. "The mirror protocol is active, General. They're seeing our true capabilities now." General Walsh nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Execute Phase Omega. Let's show them why you should never judge a book by its cover." Across Earth, humanity's greatest deception fell away like a carefully constructed mask. The International Space Station, which had appeared as little more than an orbital shanty, activated temporal distortion fields that made sections of the alien fleet freeze in place. Power plants revealed themselves as antimatter reactors, feeding energy into a planetary defense grid that had been hidden in plain sight for decades. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, Zexlar watched in horror as his tactical displays went haywire. The humans' apparent primitive nuclear missiles were actually launching platforms for quantum torpedoes. Their outdated fighter jets were deploying swarms of AI-driven nano-weapons that could bypass his ship's shields by slipping through microscopic folds in space-time. "How?" he demanded, his voice trembling. Their technology was centuries behind us. Through every speaker on his ship, a calm human voice responded. Dr. Chen's voice. "We learned long ago that the greatest weapon isn't technology, Commander. It's making your enemy underestimate you. The quantum web, disguised for so long as space debris and defunct satellites, activated in full. Each node linked with its neighbors, creating a vast neural network that could predict and counter every tactic in the Empire's database. The humans had spent decades studying the Empire's conquest protocols, and now they turned that knowledge against them. "Target their command ship," General Walsh ordered. But instead of primitive nuclear weapons, Earth's response came in the form of technology that the Empire had never imagined possible. The quantum web created a localized temporal loop, trapping Zexlar's flagship in a moment of time, while the rest of his fleet watched helplessly. "Your Empire's greatest weakness," Walsh's voice echoed through every alien ship, "is your certainty of superiority. You never considered that we might be hiding our true capabilities, that every conquest protocol you developed became a tool we could use against you." Sarah monitored the quantum feedback loops as Earth's defense grid systematically neutralized the alien fleet. Ships that could have laid waste to continents found themselves unable to penetrate shields that appeared to defy physics itself. Weapons capable of shattering moons were rendered useless by defense systems that had been disguised as traffic control networks. "We knew you were coming," Sarah explained to the increasingly desperate alien commander. "We've known for 30 years. Every scan you made, every protocol you followed, played right into our hands. Your own psychological warfare tactics became your undoing. The massive alien ships, once so intimidating, now hung powerless in Earth's orbit. Their supposedly superior technology had been outmaneuvered not just by humanity's hidden capabilities, but by their own predictability. The greatest military force in known space had been defeated not by brute force, but by humans' ability to turn their enemies' assumptions against them. As the last of the Empire's ships was secured in temporal stasis, General Walsh turned to Sarah. "Send the signal. It's time to let the galaxy know that humanity is ready to emerge from behind our mask." The message that spread across space was brief but clear. Earth was no longer pretending to be a primitive world. The age of hiding their true capabilities was over. The galaxy would have to come to terms with a humanity that had mastered the art of deception and turned it into their greatest defense. New Dawn. 3 months after Earth's revelation to the galaxy, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in a chamber that until recently had been one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. The Antarctic Quantum Observatory, disguised for decades as a climate research station, now hosted representatives from 24 alien civilizations, all former victims of the Nexus Empire. "Your deception was unprecedented," admitted Ambassador Catal of the Centauri Alliance, their crystalline form shimmering in the observatory's light. "We spent centuries developing advanced weapons to fight the Empire. Never did we consider that hiding our advancement might be more effective than showing it." General Walsh, now Earth's representative to the newly formed Galactic Defense Council, smiled. "Sometimes the best defense isn't a shield or a weapon. It's making your enemy look the wrong way." The former Commander Zexlar, now a prisoner of Earth, was brought in under quantum containment. His once proud mandibles drooped as he faced the species he had previously dismissed as primitive. "How long?" he asked Sarah. "How long have your people been capable of this level of technology?" "Longer than you believe," she replied. "We detected your empire's first conquest 50 years ago. Instead of panicking or rushing to build obvious defenses, we chose a different path. Every advancement we made was carefully hidden behind a facade of primitive technology. The quantum displays showed the true extent of Earth's capabilities, no longer hidden behind artificial limitations. What had appeared to be simple weather satellites were actually part of a vast network that could manipulate spacetime itself. Ordinary power plants housed technology that could harvest energy from parallel universes. But why maintain the deception for so long?" asked another ambassador, their holographic form flickering with curiosity. "Why not reveal yourselves sooner?" Walsh exchanged glances with Sarah before responding. "Because humanity learned something crucial from studying history, both our own and the galaxy's. The most successful survivors aren't always the ones with the biggest weapons or the strongest shields. They're the ones who understand the power of perception." Screens around the chamber displayed the aftermath of humanity's victory. The Nexus Empire, once thought invincible, was collapsing. Not through force of arms, but because Earth had exposed the fundamental flaw in their strategy, their absolute certainty in their own superiority. "We've begun sharing our defensive techniques with other worlds," Sarah explained to the assembled delegates. "Not just our technology, but our strategies for hiding it. The age of obvious power is ending. The future belongs to those who understand the art of misdirection." The implications were spreading across the galaxy. Worlds that had lived in fear of conquest were learning that they didn't need to engage in an arms race. Earth's example showed that true strength could lie in appearing weak while building hidden capabilities. "But now that everyone knows of your deception," Catal observed, "how will this strategy work in the future?" Walsh's smile widened. "Who says this is the full extent of our capabilities? The best deception isn't just hiding your strength. It's making others wonder how much more you might be hiding." As if to emphasize her point, the quantum displays showed Earth's defense network evolving in real time, implementing new configurations that even their allies couldn't fully comprehend. The message was clear. Humanity had mastered not just technology, but the subtle art of keeping potential adversaries uncertain. Sarah looked out at the assembled representatives, remembering that day months ago when she'd first detected the Empire's approach. "We're not interested in conquest or domination," she assured them. "Earth wants to be a stabilizing force in the galaxy, but we'll maintain our policy of strategic ambiguity. After all, it's served us well so far." As the conference concluded, the delegates departed with a new understanding of power. Earth had shown that true strength wasn't always about having the biggest fleet or the most advanced weapons. Sometimes, it was about knowing when to hide your capabilities, when to reveal them, and how to use your enemy's assumptions against them. The stars above the Antarctic facility twinkled with new possibility. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers of a new way of thinking about defense and deterrence. The age of obvious power was over. The age of subtle strength had begun.